I've noticed it over the last several years that you see more and more of it.
It is a question many of you have asked over the past couple of years and a story we've covered several times.
Back in July of 2022, Kyle Kirby asked us, why are all the trees dying along Highway 55? Is it moths, beetles, or the ice melt chemical? What else could it be? Well, that summer, we really weren't able to get a clear answer.
But as our Sophia Bliss tells us, an Idaho senator is hoping to get one and pay for a study to do it.
If a tree falls on Highway 55, is anyone there to ask why?
I'm hoping to get a study done to find out what is happening to the trees along 55.
Idaho Senator Rick Just is listening.
We just need to find out what it is.
Senator Just says he's planning to request funding to test tree tissue samples to find out what's killing them.
It's just like if you were to go to the doctor and they did a blood sample. They can see a lot of things based on that sampling, so a tree would be no different.
University of Idaho professor Audra Cochran shares what that study may look like.
It's a bit of an extensive process. You would really want to get tissue samples from a collective sampling across the state.
For the past 2 years, the U.S. Forest Service said a combination of factors are to blame, including climate change and drought. But now, scientists want to examine if the salt mixture used to melt snow on wintry roads has something to do with it.
Deciduous trees are better able to handle the road salt load because they do shed that foliage every year, where conifer species aren't necessarily shedding needles every year.
Conifer species include pine trees, like those along Highway 55.
So they have a little harder time dealing with that road salt load.
Professor Cochran teaches farm and forestry topics at the University of Idaho.
Tree stress in general can take on a lot of different shapes and forms, but typically you can start telling by the needle color. Typically what we see if we think that road salts are affecting it is you can kind of see the spray pattern, and a lot of times it is around the base of the tree and that lower foliage.
She says road salt will eventually make its way down into the soil and affect the roots too. It's worth noting the Idaho Transportation Department has used a variety of salts and salt mixtures over the years on Highway 55. For the past 2 winters, ITD has been using a new product called Ice Kicker. They say it's a type of sodium chloride that is less corrosive and more efficient at melting snow. But even though the road salt may be one of the causes of stress on the trees, it's not the only one.
And that's what I think we've been seeing since 2020. So it's been 3 years of drought stress and just environmental factors that are really affecting those trees.
It's actually in an Idaho Transportation Department meeting. They had a meeting for elected officials.
A surprisingly emotional meeting.
And during the question and answer session, a couple of people from Horseshoe Bend, I think, and Cascade got up and said, you really need to cut those trees down. And they were emotional about it. And I was a little puzzled by that. And then as they talked, I found out that a young man had been killed by a falling tree.
Senator Just is talking about 8th grader Colton Jones, who died in June. His family was driving on Highway 55 when a tree fell on the passenger side of their car.
I just assumed that maybe the die-off was due to bugs or blister rust or something.
But then one of Senator Just's constituents suggested the cause might be road salts.
And so I got to poking around a little bit, asked the Idaho Conservation League, asked ITD as well, Idaho Transportation Department, what was going on there.
ITD says they don't have any evidence to show it is the road salt.
I wasn't satisfied with that. I don't care what it isn't. I want to know what it is.
Senator Just plans to make a budget request in the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee in April. That budget would have to pass during the legislative session, and if it does, it wouldn't take effect until July 2024. But this issue isn't exclusive to southern Idaho. Areas in northern Idaho are seeing dead trees right now, too. Our changing climate has intensified the stress on trees. All across the Northwest, there's disease, bark beetles, wildfires, and drought. Is salt the latest stressor that's pushing these trees over the edge?
There's an irony there because they put the salt on the highways as a safety measure. I'm not suggesting we just stop things. We do need to find out what it is. Maybe there's a different application method. Maybe there's a different formula. I don't know. Maybe it's not the salt at all. Let's find out.
For Environment Northwest, I'm meteorologist Sophia Bliss.